of northern Salt Lake. All right, we're going to get started today, but before we get into anything official, I do want to just do everybody's names really quick. You don't have to intro or tell us anything fancy about yourself, but let's just do names starting in the back.
Caitlin. I'm paying attention.
Yeah, I'm just teasing you. Caitlin, and then let's start up here and we'll go to the back.
Oh, great. I'm Delilah.
Delilah's related to the instructor tonight, just so everybody knows.
Just tonight.
Just tonight. Yeah.
Tomorrow we're sending her back.
It's still up for debate.
Be on my best behavior.
All right, so Caitlin, Delilah.
I'm Kahili.
Awesome.
I'm Lily.
Lily. Let's go back to you. Huh?
Amy.
Amy still.
Allie.
Connie.
Flax.
Tracy.
Josh.
Jennifer. Jenna. Julie. Max.
You passed, Max. Nice job. That was all for you. You remembered.
And, Janessa.
And Janessa just came in. Fantastic. All right, we're going to get started. And you tell me if I just hit this big button, that makes things go over.
I think, there you go.
PowerPoint is not my skill set. If you guys need 10 minutes of good stand-up material, I'm your guy. This is not it. So every Tuesday night during the first 3 weeks of every month, we have classes here at our what we call Elysium Learning Center, and it's really just a myriad of different topics, and they're all free, so they're just things we're trying to educate the public about. We try to advertise these things, so word of mouth, obviously. When you get to go home and tell your families that you learned something special, then you bring them back. If you ever want to find a topic that might interest you or might interest them, we're trying just to get the word out to let people know. These are important things that you should learn, and even as young as Max, how old are you, buddy? 10. Max is going to have all the things figured out that most of us later on in life are still struggling with. So the fact that Max is here is awesome. So what we don't do here, though, in the Learning Center is we don't sell anything, so you're not here to buy a timeshare, anything like that, okay? Nobody's going to get a car or a lease or anything like that. So what we do tonight specifically is we're going to teach and talk about debt. And we want to give you the tools to win so you can hopefully earlier on in life avoid making mistakes that potentially your parents made or other people that are older that made and that they're still trying to undo. And so we're trying to get ahead of it and teach people to say, here's the things that if you can, you should try to avoid. Because it's an expensive world out there and things aren't getting any cheaper. And other than just wanting to live with your parents for the rest of your life and ask them for money, we're going to try to figure out a different way to go about things. I know you like your mom, Max, but you probably want to move out at some point, right? You're already thinking about it? All right. At the company here at Elysium, though, we have a mission. It's really to empower everybody that comes through our doors here to live their best life. And we do that by giving them important information and teaching them important things. All right, so we're going to talk tonight about a big four-letter word. It's one of the worst four-letter words you can hear in society today. There are some bad four-letter words, and I will say our daughter shared one with us at game night Sunday night at our table. Do you want to tell everybody what you said, Delilah?
It was an accident. Mom said way worse.
All right, we were having a fun game night and something slipped. But anyway, it was not debt. It was something else. But we're going to talk about debt tonight and how to avoid it, first of all, because not having it and avoiding it altogether, it's kind of like a hot stove. It's probably smart to not touch it if it's red and hot, especially if somebody else before you has touched it and they said it was red and I touched it, it was really hot, you probably shouldn't do it. Some of us are slower than others and we still have to touch things just to make sure and know. But we want to try to avoid it first of all, and then secondly, we want to get rid of it if we did make a mistake and touch that hot stove and we are now, quote unquote, in debt. So a little bit about myself is I've been working with people for most of my career, helping people what I consider to be getting out of debt. And I do that a lot of different ways. I help people financially, I help people sell and purchase their houses, and I try to teach people how to avoid debts and ultimately save for the future, because I meet a lot of people later on in life that don't unfortunately start the right way, and they get to be later on and they still have student loans, for example, and maybe they're 40, 50, or 60 years old and they still have these monthly payments they're having to make. And they come to me and they say, man, I wish we had known, or I wish we had somebody like you that told us when we were younger to avoid some of these things. So we're going to talk tonight about what to avoid specifically. Dave Ramsey, if nobody knows who that is or not, but I've teamed up with his group, and they're a national group, and they teach a lot of people and they give people tools. to get out of debt. So if you are in debt, have made some minor mistakes in your life, then there's a great tool that you can jump on RamseySolutions.com, and they have programs to help you get out of debt. Okay, so we're going to ask a lot of questions tonight, and everyone's going to share some answers because Kahili's going to take some good notes, right? Okay, first thing is, what is debt? Let's even start for some of the younger kids here. Like, what is debt? Who wants to be brave and share what they know? What is it when we say the word debt? What does that mean?
Spending money you don't have.
Fantastic. Spending money you do not have. How do you spend money that you don't have?
Credit cards?
Okay, yeah, you have to borrow it, right? You have to get it from somebody else. Okay, so we're going to talk tonight about if there is good debt and what bad debt is. All right, so what is good debt? What we talk about or try to help people understand is anytime you're borrowing money, okay, going into debt, it's always good to borrow money for potentially something that's going to go up in value, not something that's going to go down in value. Seems pretty simple, but let's talk about something that might go up in value. Who here can tell me what's something you could potentially borrow to purchase that maybe over years would go up in value?
House.
Who said that?
A house.
Okay. How long, have you bought a house?
Yes.
Yes. How many houses have you bought?
3.
Okay, fantastic. Has that been good debt for you? Can you share how or why?
It's worth way more than I paid for it. So it's,
Yeah, and you didn't pay cash for it when you bought it, right? You got a loan to buy it. And over the years, even though you had a loan and you were making monthly payments, it went up in value. Okay? If anybody here goes back and talks to their grandparents, in 1965, how much did a house cost? Anybody have an idea? Depending on where you lived? What's that?
40,000.
$40,000. Can you buy a house for $40,000 anymore?
No.
If you can find one, call me, okay? Max and I are going to buy it together, joint venture. Okay? So a house is a really good one that we're going to talk about tonight that is a good way, potentially. You obviously want to make sure you can afford it. Good debt is something that goes up in value, but it's also something you can manage and afford. You don't ever want to borrow money to buy something that you can't keep up with. You've probably heard scary terms like foreclosure or people losing their homes. When people borrow too much money even to buy a house that could be a good investment, sometimes they borrow too much and now they can't afford to pay it. So you always want to make sure that whatever that good debt is, if it is a house, that it's something you can manage on a month-to-month basis. Okay, what is bad debt? Things that go down in value, opposite to good debt. What are things that go down in value? Tom, come on in, man. Got a party. Tell us who you got. We've already done introductions.
Yes, this is Elora and this is Lily.
Lauren and Lily?
Elora.
Laura and Lily.
Yes, 14 and 12.
14 and 12. Fantastic. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. I heard you were teaching. I'm like, you can't do it.
Fantastic. I was just telling these kids we're super huge in Germany and North Salt Lake, so I'm glad you guys could come. Okay, Tom, Elorna and Lily, right?
Laura.
Yeah,
All right, I'm not
it's
gonna
close enough.
Good. We're talking about debt, really quick, just to catch you up, okay? What debt, which Delilah answered earlier, is debt is when you borrow money from somebody else. It means you don't have money in your pocket to buy it. So you have to borrow money to go buy it, okay? That's kind of where we're at right now. So we're talking about what is good debt and what is bad debt. And we just talked about, going the wrong way, we just talked about something that's good debt that goes up in value is maybe the house that you live in. Tom, you own a house, right?
I do.
Since you bought a house, has it gone up in value or down in value?
Up a lot. Nice rock.
Okay, we've got another testimony for buying a house. That's good, okay? If you can afford it, then that's a good one. So we're just getting in now is what is bad debt? Things that go down in value. So by raise of hand, who knows something that you could borrow money to buy that doesn't go up in value like a house but might go down in value?
Cars.
Cars? You were just saying, come up with something else. I'm going to come back to you. What else? Did you raise your hand?
A motorhome?
Good. Motorhome makes the list. Fantastic. Why does a motorhome go down in value versus go up in value?
Vehicle.
Yeah, it's a vehicle. What do you do to a motorhome?
Drive it.
Yeah, you drive it. And when you drive something like a car, does it appreciate or does it depreciate? More miles means it goes down in value. When you buy a car, for example, and it has 20,000 miles on it, you drive it around for a few years, and now it has 50,000 miles on it. Did it go in value or did it go down in value? Taking good notes, Kahili, you follow me? Yeah, that's good? Okay. What are other things? We got car, we got motorhome. Motorcycle, fantastic. What else? Lance, what's something else that you can think of? Boat. That's a good one. Boats are fun though, Lance. You sure they go down in value? Positive. The best way to ever buy a boat is to become best friends with somebody that bought a boat. Because the minute you drive that boat into the water, it goes down in value. So if you're borrowing money to buy it and it's going down in value, it's working against you, not for you. Okay? What else? Anybody else wants to take another crack at it?
What about timeshare?
Timeshare, good. Go up in value or go down in value? Does anybody know what a timeshare is?
Something you desperately want to get rid of once you have.
Okay. So timeshare is a pre-purchased vacation for the rest of your life. And it sounds silly because everyone's like, yeah, vacation for the rest of my life sounds good. But you're pre-purchasing a plan to be going on vacation to the place where you bought this for the rest of your life. So people that buy timeshares have to pay every month and every year to go on a vacation, even if they don't use it or if they do use it. Now the funny thing with timeshares is nobody wants to keep them. They kind of force you into buying them, and then after that, like a year or two, they're like, cool, that was fun, and they're like, we don't want to keep paying this. This is terrible. They want to get rid of them. So usually know if something is going up or down in value if the people want to get rid of it or not. It's pretty good way to know for sure, okay? All right, so I've got some other things listed here. Some of the things we didn't go over. We didn't go over car loans, motorcycles, motorhomes, credit cards. What can somebody share about credit cards? Good debt or bad debt?
It's under the bad debt line.
Why is it a bad debt?
Really high interest.
Really high, like how high? Does anybody know?
They're like 30%.
Yeah. They can be crazy. I mean, they can be anywhere from 15 to 30%, but
I don't think people signed up for 30%. They probably signed up for 18, but over time, now they're 32, 30.
you're so right. Even, what's tricky, like when Max gets to be 18 years old, or Josh, you turn 18 years old, credit card companies are going to start sending you stuff in the mail. They'll be like, hey, you should use our credit card at 18. And they'll say, we'll even give you, like Connie said, they'll give you 0%. We want to give you the card because what do they want you to do with the card? They want you to use it, right? They're like, don't worry about paying us back immediately. You can have how many days to pay us back usually? Yeah, right? You're like, cool. We're going on a trip. We're out of here, right? That's how they get you to kind of fall into the pitfalls of, we want to give you easy access to this and make it sound a lot more incentivizing, like Connie said. We want to make it sound like this is going to be good for you, but it's not good for you, it's bad for you, and it's good for them. Not really cool. Okay? So we have car loans that we talked about. We're going to go over car loans a lot more tonight. Student loans. Who knows what student loans are?
Oh, I do.
Janessa does. Preach, sister. Tell us about student loans.
Student loans are loans that you take out so that you can pay your tuition and books to go to school.
Yeah. Why this is something we're sharing tonight. Some people might argue that student loans are good debt because you're getting an education. Potentially that education is going to help you make more money. So it's an investment into yourself. So why not borrow the money to do that? Okay? So that's why somebody might argue that a student loan is a good debt. But in what way would a student loan be a bad debt and not be a good debt?
I think for me, because I went to school at the time to be a teacher, and really hard to pay back student loans on a teacher's salary.
Okay? So a lot of times when you go to get a student loan, you don't really know exactly what you're going to be doing for work. It sounds good. You're like, I'm going to go to school and someone's going to give me a loan to do it, but there's really no plan as to when I actually get done with school, I'm going to get a job. That job's going to pay me X amount of dollars, and I'll be able to pay the student loans back. Unfortunately, the bad portion of student loan debts is 10, 20 years, 30 years later. I have friends that are doctors and dentists that have been working for 20 years, and they make decent money. They're making, I'm going to say, like more than $200,000 a year, and they still have student loans after 20 years. They haven't been able to pay them off. So we're trying to help people understand, stay away from student loans. We can talk about different ways to try to do school without getting into student loans. The next one on here? Owing your parents money. Raise your hand if you owe parents money. She's going to get picked on tonight a little bit.
I can tell.
Yeah. We're glad you came. Is owing your parents money fun?
No,
Why?
because they pull stuff like this.
You never want to be sharing a dinner table with people you owe money with. It kind of makes the food taste different, right? Because you're eating dinner, you're like, great, you owe me money, and you're like eating my food, and then you're like, and by the way, this weekend I'm going to go party with my friends. You're like, okay, that sounds like fun, but you still owe me money. So it can be a little awkward. So owing your parents money, bad debt, okay? Just as an opinion. Payday loans. Who knows what payday loans are? Go ahead.
Oh, that's where you borrow money against your paycheck,
Good.
and it's a very high interest rate, and they hope that you're gonna pay them back as soon as you get paid.
Everybody follow that? Yeah?
I had the pleasure of working as the receptionist at a payday loan center in college.
Oh.
And the interest rates were 521%.
Oh.
Yeah. Big money for people to get their paycheck a few days early, right? Which isn't a good sign. If you're having to go somewhere to borrow money to get your paycheck in 3 or 4 days, you're not doing so well. And it's okay just to say, I need some help. So that's a good one. This is obviously a funny one. Borrowing money to buy Bitcoin. Should not be borrowing money to buy other things that you don't understand. This is one of the bigger ones we actually see a lot. People buy things from RC Willey or these big stores, and all they do is go in and buy, and they're like, hey, I want to buy a new TV, and they're like, fantastic. And they don't ask you if you're going to pay for it. They just want you to sign up to buy it and make payments on it. Okay, so if you go buy a new TV, they're actually going to be pretty let down if you're like, I'm just going to write a check and pay for this today. They're going to be like, why would you do that when we can just have you pay for it little by little for the rest of your life? It's a terrible plan. But you have to understand going into those places that these guys actually don't want you to buy a TV and just pay cash for it. They don't make a whole lot of money when you just pay cash for it. They want you to buy it on payments. Anytime you're buying something on payments, just kind of make a mental note. I'm paying more for it if I make payments than if I paid for it today, as a rule of thumb. Follow me? If you can't go in and buy it today, rule of thumb is you can't afford it, one, but if you get sucked into making payments, just know you're going to be paying a lot more for whatever that is than what it actually costs. And this is the ultimate trick right now that cell phone companies are doing. Can you even buy a cell phone for cash anymore?
They make it hard.
They make it really hard, don't they? What do they try to do, Tom?
They charge you more. They tell you that it costs more than the finance price.
Yeah, so you're like, well, I just want to buy a phone today. They're like, you actually don't want to buy a phone today. Let me tell you why. And they give you all this sale pitch about, hey, for whatever you do, all you have to do is pay this month, a month, and it actually saves you money. You're like, what just happened here? I came in to buy a phone today, and they wouldn't sell me a phone. They wanted to sell me a payment plan. It's very hard.
The price.
Huh?
They don't advertise the price of the phone. They advertise the monthly payment.
Absolutely. Coming back to car loans, which we're going to talk the rest of the class a lot about tonight. Car loans are the same way. If you go to buy a car, it's very hard to find out how much the car actually costs, because what do they have stapled across all of the commercials now and everywhere you go? What is it?
The monthly payment.
They advertise the monthly payment. If you actually try to sit down with somebody and say, hey, I'm here to buy a car today, how much does it cost? They're like, it costs you $299 a month. You're like, that's not what I asked. How much does the car cost? $299 a month. Like, okay, you get caught in this dog and pony show where they don't want to sell you a car. I've gone in and bought cars before for our family where I've actually gone and written a check for it, not even for crazy amounts of money. And before I know it, I'm being taken back by the general manager. They sit down with me and they say, we just want to know why you're paying cash for this car. It's happened 3 different times. What do you do for a job, sir? Like, it's so uncommon for them to have somebody buy a car and actually pay for it. They don't even know what to do anymore. So they're really just trying to sell you these payment plans. Okay. We all love fancy cars. Everybody loves fancy cars. Who wants to drive a car that doesn't work? Super fun, right? Has anyone ever gotten stuck at a light where their car didn't work? Yes?
Oh yeah.
How does that feel? How does it feel just driving down the road knowing at any moment your car might stop working?
It's not great.
It's not a great feeling, is it? It's kind of scary. What we need to understand, though, is if we get into the mentality of borrowing money to buy things, we need to understand that that money we're putting in is actually going to help somebody else, and it's hurting us. So anytime you're doing payments, Just understand, especially on all of these things that are going down in value, your money is going into a big black hole and it's never coming back out. And luckily there is somebody on the other end of that that's saying, thank you so much, and they're gathering it up while we're just putting it in. This is an extreme example, but I think it really helps us kind of have a little bit of fun with what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm going to go back to it so we can watch it. Can you hit play on that?
I bought this car for $114,000. I wanted to be financially responsible, so I paid cash for it. When I was in my 20s, I used to listen to a lot of audio CDs while I was driving in my car. I bought this car for $114,000. I wanted to be financially responsible, so I paid cash for it. When I was in my 20s, I used to listen to a lot of audio CDs while I was driving in my car. One of the ones I loved was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of the lessons I remember is he used to talk about all the time about not buying a depreciating asset like a car. Instead, to buy investment properties to pay for something like a car. I did that. I bought this duplex for $240,000. And between the upstairs and the downstairs, it cash flows over $1,100 a month. That's easily enough to pay me for my car. So why am I still upset about it? Because my car sits in my garage 5 out of every 7 days. I just like driving my truck. And sure, my nieces love it when I take them for a ride, or my dates seem to enjoy it when I let them take it for a spin in ludicrous mode. But see, here's the thing. I've owned this Tesla now for 1,296 days. I've put 33,455 miles on it. That means if I'd invested the same 114 grand into Tesla stock the day I invested it into this Tesla, then today I would have $1,086,677. That means while my car was sitting here in my garage, it cost me $836 a day. And while I was driving it, it cost me $32.48 per mile. In 2017, Tesla sold and delivered 101,312 cars. That means there's over 100,000 people just like me that spent over $800 a day or $25,000 a month on what could have been future capital gain from Tesla stock. It makes me sick when I think about this. Not that it's bad to have nice things, it's not. But for $25,000 a month, this is how many investment properties I could have owned, even if I didn't have any renters for them. And here's how many kids I could have sent away to college. And here's how many hungry children I could have fed every single month. So I guess you can take away whatever lesson you want from this, but for me, I guess you can see now why I kind of hate my Tesla.
All right, what did we learn from that? That's an extreme example, but what are some takeaways? Frankie, what did you learn?
Just how much it appreciates just sitting there.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Who else? What did we learn?
The difference when your money is working for you versus when it's
Yeah. He kind of showed what the difference was, obviously, about what he's putting into his car payment versus what it could be if it was invested in something. Good debt versus bad debt. Follow me? We never understand really how much it costs to drive our cars because we're only thinking on a monthly basis. This is how much it costs to me on a monthly basis. Okay, but if we're paying $500 a month, the average car payment now is closer to $600 a month. That's average. And out of that $600 a month, you're paying, who knows what the interest rates are. They can range anywhere from 5 to 9% right now, 10% if you've got bad credit. You're paying $300-400 a month just in interest. So not only is your car going down in value, but you're paying an extra maybe $5,000 or $6,000 a year just to interest, just to say, I get to drive this cool car. One of the worst things I see helping people all of the time is they come in and they're like, I just bought the sweetest car. And I'm like, fantastic, tell me about it. They walk me through how excited they are to have it. And I sit back and I listen sometimes, and sometimes I get so mad, I say, that car is driving you. You're not driving it. Because now you can't go and do what you came to me to do, which is invest that money somewhere else. They say, we want to go and do this now. And I have to say, this is how much you're spending every month just to drive this car to look cool, to impress people that you don't even care about, that aren't even going to know who you are. You just want to feel good about driving around in town. Christian, who works with me at my office, does a lot of loans for people. Can you tell us, just in the last year or two, what you've seen people's car payments are?
Oh, 400 to 1,000. And I've seen some as high as 1,700.
thinking that there are people out there, as you're looking around, they're like, wow, that's a nice car. How do they afford to drive that car? How do they afford to drive it? Yeah, they don't. Okay? Go ahead, Keely.
So from the video, would you then classify stocks as good debt, or would that be considered bad?
So the important part about this video, good question, Keely. Yeah, good question. When he started at the very beginning, I don't know if you guys heard it or not because it was a little low, he paid cash for this car. So he didn't borrow money to get it, okay? So he was kind of saying, if I had taken that same money that I paid cash with the car for, so there was no debt, he bought the car outright. He saved up $114,000 and then went and bought this car, okay? And he was walking you through what that looks like. Now, he hated that paying cash for it. How much more would he have hated it if he borrowed $100,000 to buy it? Worse, right? So not good to borrow money to buy a car or anything else other than potentially like what we've talked about, which would be a house. Yeah, stocks, not something you want to borrow money to go purchase. But if you have the money, investing that into a good stock, getting advice on what that might be, absolutely the way to do it. But you never want to go, hey, Mom and Dad, I want to invest in this stock. Can you guys give me $3,000? How's that going to go? It's not going to go very well. Good job. I like it. You guys are following me. This is good. Okay. This is a great 2-minute clip from Dave Ramsey, so you guys get to know who he is a little bit too. He teaches people to avoid debt and to get out of debt. This is his opinion on car loans, okay?
Go from tossing and turning to resting and relaxing with a game-changing adjustable base by Revive.
Today's question comes from Ethan in Texas. He says, Dave, I'm starting to look at buying a vehicle to replace my current ride, which seems to have an impending death sentence. I only have about $2,000 saved up towards the vehicle at the moment. If I would be putting aside money each month that is roughly equal to a car payment, why not just buy the car with a loan? What's the benefit of this? I currently have no debt, and it just seems too convenient not to buy the car and have it right now. Well, that's what most people do, and most people are broke. If you stay out of car payments the rest of your life, it is one of the key elements, one of the key data points that indicates towards building wealth. The average car payment in America today is $507 a month over 84 months. Were you to invest $507 from age 30 to age 70 instead of screwing around with car payments, you would have, from age 30 to age 70, you'd have about $5.6 million. I hope you like the car. All the millionaires that we interview, 90-some-odd% of them have not had a car payment in decades. Decades. They said we're never borrowing money again. So, if you want to be normal and mediocre and broke, keep a car payment your whole life. It pretty well mathematically ensures you're going to be normal and mediocre and broke. It takes your money. That's what it is. And so you're thinking short term, save up and pay cash for the car. That way you'll own it. You're not paying any interest and you're not stuck. You don't get repossessed if you lose your job in the middle. Something happens, you're not pinched. You own the car or you don't buy the car. Now, Ethan, you can do whatever you want to do. But debt always seems easy until you have it. And then you start figuring out it's hard. Oh, it's not a big deal. I mean, if I could save $200 a month, why can't I pay a $200 payment? Just get the car now. That's it. But that's a very short-term thinking mentality. And the shorter term you think on things, the shorter your vision window is, the less likely you are to build wealth. And this show is about, having financial peace. Two words that don't go together. Like airline service. Think about it.
Okay, he's a little bit more brutal, straight to the point. What else does he talk about? What were some of your thoughts? What did we learn?
Think long term, not short term.
Good. Is that hard to do? Is it hard to think long term? Is it hard to be disciplined? Lance, how long have you been disciplined in your finances? Have you always been that way?
No.
No? When did it start? Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, it probably started probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
When I started.
I don't want to assume anything, but you weren't 16, right?
No.
Okay.
No, close.
Close.
Yeah. So it started when I started making good money and not seeing the results of making good money.
Yeah.
And it got to be, it was irritating.
Pretty frustrating to make money and not have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
Okay? You're working hard, but you're making short-term decisions instead of long-term plans. So he talks about cars being a short-term plan, meaning I want it today. Who wants stuff today? Everybody, right? We all want cool stuff today, whether it's a phone. Most of the time it's a phone. But most kids now, even Max, are like, Mom, I want a phone. It's $1,000. And you're like, sweet. How much was your first phone? Was it $1,000? Yeah. Everything's $1,000 now, right? So obviously everybody wants to make payments on it. So the important thing is the long term versus the short term, like Delilah said, which is it's so hard to go without today in order to make a plan for future and longer term. Okay? But Tom, if you could go back and talk to yourself 10 or 15 years ago, would you probably say something to yourself to say,
I would have put money in that Roth IRA when I was 12.
yeah. Even if it was a little bit, you would have put something in the good portion where it was going up little by little rather than buying stuff. But we're all young and we all make kind of dumb decisions, right? And that's why we're here tonight, is to talk about how we can help each other avoid making some of those. So staying out of debt, like he just talked about, car payments primarily is what the main primary difference between people that, he said the word wealth versus people that are poor. What does it mean to have wealth? Jenna, what do you hear when you hear the word wealth? What do you know about wealth?
I basically just think that you have money to give.
Good, really
You have
good.
excess.
You have more than you need,
Yeah.
is what a wealth means. Who else? What else does it mean to be wealthy?
Stability.
Stability. Have enough to pay for things. What else? I know it sounds like a kind of a big word. Does anybody here know anybody that's wealthy? Other than a cartoon, maybe, like that lives on the top of a mountain and makes decisions for people, you know, that's how they're always kind of depicted. What does their life look like if they're wealthy?
And freedom.
Freedom. Good. They've got big houses? Sometimes, right? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. People that are wealthy, and you would probably never even know it, because maybe they live next door to you, and maybe they don't drive a Tesla, but guess what? A lot of people that I get to meet don't have house payments at all. They don't even have a mortgage payment. It's zero. That's pretty impressive, right? Zero debt. No car payments, no house payment, nothing. So stability, like Delilah said, and peace of mind. People that are wealthy have more than they need, like Jenna said, and they have money to give to other people because they're not spending it and giving it to other people all of the time. That's the difference. And the car loans are an easy way to kind of use your brain to say, if I have a car loan, is your money going to you or is it going to someone else? It's going to somebody else, okay? That other person is wealthy, okay? People that are getting those payments every month, they love us. They want us to give those payments all day long. So what we're teaching here today is, if you've made some of these mistakes in your life, which everybody has, there's a couple of things we can do. But the first one, if we can get to you early, is to say, avoid it at all costs. The oven is hot, okay? We want you to trust us and don't touch it at all. That's the easiest way. More than likely, though, everyone here is normal and we make mistakes and we're going to touch it even though somebody literally just touched it, their hand is burning, and we're like, are you sure? I don't think it'll burn me. And we touch it, right? That's kind of human nature sometimes. The first thing to do is always to avoid it. The second, and the rest of these are if you already have it, meaning you've made a bad purchase, maybe you own a car that you're making payments on. Maybe you have credit card debt. You know, maybe you own a timeshare. I don't know, like any of these things. Maybe you got a motorhome, right? That's sitting in your RV pad. Or I meet people all the time that have boats, RVs, pools, all of these things that they never paid for that they're just making monthly payments on. They appear to be wealthy because they have nice houses sometimes. But when they come to me, they're literally sobbing sometimes because they're like, we're broke. Everyone else thinks we're wealthy because we've got some of these things, but things are collapsing on them. And that's when I have to sit down with them and say, hey, we all make mistakes. Let's go back and figure out how to undo this. We may not be able to get to look as cool moving forward, but it's a lot better to sleep with peace of mind, Lance, isn't it, to have things managed than it is to look awesome all the time for other people. That's a tough business to get into, isn't it? Okay, so if you do have some debt and you make some mistakes, first thing is to buckle up because it's hard. It's really hard to go back and undo things that you've made mistakes on. So avoiding it is always the best way. 3, make a plan. How do you get out of it? You sit down with somebody like myself and we look at everything that you've got and we say, this is the mess. It's okay to say I have a mess. You got to look at it and you got to laugh at it. You got to say I'm normal. Okay? Dave Ramsey always says he has a PhD in DUMB. Okay? That means he's gone and gotten a doctorate degree in dumb decisions. We've all made dumb decisions. So sitting down with somebody like I have, I've made plenty of bad decisions. My wife's been married to me for a very long time. How many bad decisions have I made over our life with money? Pretty bad, right? Had to drag her through that even as well, but she's been patient. But at some point we sat down and we made a plan and said, we don't want to live like that anymore. We don't want to live like we're trying to impress other people and feel like we're drowning every day. So we make a plan, you work the plan, you stick to the plan, and ultimately you become debt-free. And what we're trying to teach people out in the community is to become debt-free, to avoid owing people money. Sounds pretty simple, right? Is everybody gonna do it? Really, really, really hard to do. Really hard to do. If you stopped 10 people on the street and said, are you debt-free, you probably wouldn't run into anybody that is. We've become very normalized and very educated and instructed to borrow money, to go to other people to find these things. So there's a reason behind some of you answered why we do need to be debt-free. We're going to end with this last clip here, and then I'm going to take some questions and just have people ask things if they want to ask anything that they feel like we need to cover tonight. It's another video clip. But why do you need to be debt-free in your life? Just think about it. Maybe it's because you want to give, like Jenna said. Maybe you want to have other opportunities. Maybe you want to be stable. We're going to watch this, and this is about 8 minutes, so bear with me here. But he talks a lot about your visions, hopes, and dreams, about what life will look like if you stop giving your money to other people.
Everyone wants their home to be more comfortable, functional, and beautiful, which is why Living Spaces has designed and developed.
Thanks for joining us. What if you didn't have any payments? What if there was no Master card? You hadn't discovered bondage or American distress. You weren't caught in a car fleece. You gave Sally Mae her eviction notice and kicked the old woman out into the street.
Sally Mae or student loans.
Think about your budget right now. Think about your income. What if you had no car payment, no credit card payments, no student loan payment, no medical bills outstanding? What if you had no debt? What if you had no mortgage payment? All you had to buy was lights, water, and food, some insurance, and you could do some investing. How much would you give if you weren't broke? If you weren't working for everybody else? If you weren't working for Lexus Motor Credit, Toyota Motor Credit, Chrysler Motor Credit, Ford Motor Credit? How many motor credits do I have to give you before you get this? If you weren't working for Countrywide, if you weren't working for Visa and MasterCard and God help you, Bank of America, if you weren't working for Sally Mae, what if you worked for you? What if you had no payments? Would you work at the job you work at if you didn't have to pay payments? Would you take a different job? Would you tell them to take that job and, yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Next time the boss comes in being a jerk, you could just start walking out. Where are you going? I don't have any payments. You see, Proverbs 22:7 in the Bible says the borrower is slave to the lender. Now, Dave Ramsey, you're one of those crazy Christian people, aren't you? Yep. Unabashedly so, darling. But it's not really crazy. It's just kind of common sense. The borrower is slave to the lender. You tell me, are you a slave or not? Slaves don't have choices. Other people tell them what to do. Their life is owned by someone else. I owe, so off to work I go, says the bumper sticker. Ha ha, not funny. Spend your whole life giving money to people who have 50-story buildings in the skyline. Guess who paid for those? You. The borrower is slave to the lender. Have you ever thought that it might not be possible to be generous when you're a slave? When someone else controls you, how hard is it to be generous? What if you had no payments? Could you build wealth? The average car payment in America is $504 right now over 84 months. If you invest $504 in a decent growth stock mutual fund that has the rates of returns that my personal mutual funds have had in my personal 401k for the past 40 years, if you were to do that from age 30 to age 70, you'd have about $5.6 million in your Roth IRA. Just the car payment. That's what your car payment's costing you. $5.6 million. Hope you like the car. And they go down in value, like a rock. That's where Chevy gets that, like a rock. What would it be like to have no payments? Would you work where you work if you didn't have to make money to pay other people that you owe? The number of people who change careers or change jobs once they're free and make the most money they've ever made in their lives because they're able to change jobs and make the most money they've ever made in their lives after they get out of debt, it's almost a common occurrence among the debt-free screamers that while they're getting out of debt or post-debt freedom, they make different career choices because they no longer feel trapped. You know why you feel trapped when you got a bunch of payments? Because you're trapped. That's why you feel trapped. The borrower is slave to the lender. The only difference was this was voluntary slavery. You signed up for it. I signed up for it. We were told that this is how you live. The little man can't get ahead. It takes money to make money. You're never going to have anything nice, so you might as well have some decent payments. Get low payments because that's the only way a little man like people in our neighborhood, people like us, people of our ethnic background, the only way we get ahead is payments. Ever heard those sayings? Heard them my whole life. I've heard them from every ethnic background, by the way. I've heard them from Hispanics. I've heard them from African Americans. I've heard them from hillbillies and heard them from Cajuns. Rednecks, Yankees, Dutchmen. I've heard it from every German background. Although most Germans are pretty conservative financially. I've even heard it from Canadians. Go figure. You're not different. Stupid knows no bounds. Stupid will show up in any race, in any region, and it'll settle in and make itself normal. The borrower is slave to the lender. If you didn't have any payments, you could build wealth, couldn't you? How fast would you be a millionaire if you didn't have any payments? Put your house payment in a calculator as an investment instead of a payment. How fast would that turn into $1 million? I'll help you with that. 8 years. 8 years after you pay off your house, that one account will approximate $1 million with the average house payment in America today. This is ridiculous, people. Everybody else is getting rich, and you're helping them. You're working and working and working and working.
All right, so we catch the drift there and understand. So I want to ask a question, especially for the little kids that are here today. Tom, when your kids want to buy something, they're like, Dad, let's use a phone, for example, or maybe something else that they like. I don't know what else they like. What do you tell them when they want to go buy it today? Like literally, we have to have this today. If I don't have this today, Dad, I'm gonna die. What does the conversation sound like at your house with the kids?
Yeah, so they all have piggy banks, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, do you got money in your piggy bank?
Who remembers piggy banks?
And they're like, Dad, you got the money.
In piggy banks, that's money you actually have, right? That's real money, even if it's pennies or nickels or dimes. That's exactly right. So is the expression then like, okay, how much money do you have to be able to buy that? Or do you say, well, let's go talk to them and find out if they'll give it to us for free and make us make payments for the rest of our lives? Yeah, we kind of try to do it the other way. What are some other notes everybody took down while he was talking? Like, what do you envision? What do you think about your life when you don't have payments? What does life look like? What came to mind, Connie, for you?
Just being able to do things that I want to do versus things that I maybe need to do or have to do.
Fantastic. Josh?
Just like less work and more having fun, just doing things you want to do, like what you said.
Love it. Yeah, just being able to go do stuff you want to do, right? Life's hard enough. We should be able to enjoy it once in a while, right? Shouldn't just put our heads down and just work all the time to help other people. What were you thinking, Frankie, when you watched it?
That it sounds peaceful.
Oh,
That he, just like when he said that peace of mind and finance doesn't go together, but without debt, it definitely goes together. It sounds very peaceful having that financial freedom.
did you kind of feel that too internally? Like, that sounds right.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's so hard because we're all going to leave here tonight and we're going to go back out and everyone else is going to tell us how crazy we are for talking about these kind of things, because out there, they're selling the opposite of this. Your schools, your colleges, they want you to come in and get student loans. They want you to owe them money. The car dealers want you to come in. If you go to a car dealer, you're like, well, we're here to buy a car tonight. My wife and I are looking at buying a car this week, and she knows I get so much anxiety. We go to these car places because the last thing they want to do is sell me the car. They actually don't want to sell me the car. What do they want to sell me? Yeah, they want to sell me payments. And it's so hard for me to get through their thick skulls that I'm not here to pay them for the next 9 years of my life. I'm here to write a check today, and I'm sorry that doesn't work great for you. You're going to make this super uncomfortable for me, but that's what we're doing today. So for all you kids, remember, like, if you can't afford it, should you buy it? For all you adults, started with Max first because he answered right. For all you adults, if you don't have the money to buy it, should you buy it? Why? What can you share to the younger kids here that are here tonight?
Live within your means,
How come?
because then you're not paying extra. You're not paying the interest.
Does it feel good to owe a lot of people money, Tom?
No.
It doesn't, does it? Yeah, it doesn't. Okay.
I'll say this too, is emergencies are always gonna come up, financial emergencies. You're always gonna have a car breakdown or a big medical bill. And if you're already maxed out on payments with what you make every month, you don't have money for emergencies, and that's extremely stressful. And I think that for me is something that's like a huge motivator is, if something comes up, it's not gonna be a big deal. I have money set aside. I'm not stressing, living my life worried that there's gonna be a problem if something happens. I've got money saved up to be able to cover things like that.
I'm going to pick on Allie, that's my wife. Did you grow up in a household where your parents planned ahead? No. So what kind of feelings as a kid did that give you, knowing full well that there was no plan for money?
We were worried all the time and felt bad if we ever needed things that our parents had to cover.
Yeah. What are other thoughts? Anybody else? I know it's been a little heavy tonight. We're going to leave everyone with a little excitement. Going to bring up the energy level a little bit. Going to have Jenna do some Kendrick Lamar rapping for us before we leave. You ready to go? She's like, what? She's intrigued. The hope that we want to leave you with tonight is stay away from it. Tell your friends, when they start talking about it, just say, I don't know a lot, but I will tell you that, I'll tell you what I know, which is I'm trying to avoid that because of this, and this, all that we've talked about tonight. So don't be afraid to tell your friends. Don't be afraid to share your opinions. When you have people, honestly, everybody that I have come to me now tells me they learn these things on TikTok. Like everybody. So you guys probably know this already. You kids, you start to see all of these things, and in 15 seconds, masters are teaching you how to do all of these things. And unfortunately, these are things you can't learn in 15 seconds. But they like to make it sound like it's super smart. And they make it sound like it's super enticing, and this is the smartest way to do it. talk to your parents, talk to other people you know, reach out to the people that you feel like have a hold on this stuff and get their opinions. You never want to ask somebody how to lose weight if they're overweight, right? That's kind of a normal thing to think. You want to go to people that you know are managing money well to ask them what their opinions are with money. You don't go to broke people and ask them what they should do with their money, or what you should do with your money, right? You don't go to people with student loans and say, hey, should I get a student loan? What are they going to tell you? They're going to tell you, absolutely, I got student loans. They've been great. You know, I don't have to pay for anything. I get to go to lunch every day, and my house is paid for. Yeah, what they don't know is what's coming. But before we get into kind of the next classes, this kind of gives you the idea on Tuesday nights what we talk about. We talk about a lot of different things. But what questions does everybody have? We have a few minutes left over tonight, just with anything in general. Any of the kids have questions about money, how to make money, what to do with money, how to save it, what to do with it? Anybody? Jen?